Hi Pre-Calc students, time for another online lesson. This one coming to you from my home on Holland Street in Bloor, so if you see or hear any weird noises right now you might be able to hear our washing machine going on above me, but hopefully that won't be too much of a distraction. Here's the last lesson from chapter 3 on variation, direct, inverse, and joint. This would be a good table for you to copy into your notes. As you can see, we have three types, direct, and that is the kind that right in here, we're most used to that. Basically that means both variables are moving in the same direction. Here's the format. Whenever you see that variable k, that's a constant, and n in this case greater than 0. Most of the time we solve these with proportions, although as we'll see later on we can solve them by trying to figure out what that constant is and then working from there. Another type of variation is called inverse, which you can see right here. Inverse means the two variables are moving in opposite directions, as one increases, the other decreases in most cases. Probably a good way to solve those is by writing a little equation, as you can see here, and we'll look at an example of that here in a moment. Joint means there's more than one variable that we're looking at. In this case we have both an x and a z, still have that constant there. The joint variation is very similar to direct, although it's hard to solve it by a proportion as we could when there's only two variables. Basically here we just have to find that k value and substitute. So let's go over our examples here. First example, if y varies directly as x, so there's that key word there, directly, which we want to look at, and x as x and y equals 45 when x equals 2.5. Find y when x equals 4. So we're going to set up a proportion right away, and we can just write it as x over y is maybe a good way to do it. And so let's look at the two variables that they give us. So they say that x is 2.5 when y is 45, and so we're trying to find y when x is 4. So we can set up that kind of proportion like that. Now, as we might guess, in this particular case, it looks like my x's are getting bigger, so we'd expect our y's to get bigger as well. And so we'll just quickly do a fast proportion here. 4 times 45, that kind of cross multiplying like that. And then we're going to divide by 2.5, and sure enough our answer is that y equals 72. Now, can we find that constant of variation in this problem? Well, again, it's y equals kx, and since we know that, we'll just take the first example here, and y is 45 when x equals 2.5. How do we figure out what that k value is? Well, we're simply going to divide by 2.5, and sure enough 45 divided by 2.5 equals 18. So 18 is my constant of variation. Alright, one here. Now we have more of one of those joint variation things. So it says y varies directly as the square of x, and y equals 30 when x equals 4. Find x when y equals 270. So I'm going to get a different pen color here. So I'm going to set this up, y varies directly as the square of x, so it's going to look something like that. Let's try solving this one just by trying to figure out that k value first. So it says y equals 30 when x equals 4, so we have to square 4. So we basically end up with 30 equals 16k. I'm going to divide both sides by 16, and 30 divided by 16 ends up to be 1.875, so that's my k value. Not a real beautiful answer here. But then it says find x when y equals 270. So this time I'll switch colors here for your convenience. So I'll go over here to the side. So we're still going by this, but now we're going to fill in some values we know. We know that y is 270, and now we know that my k value here is at 1.875, and I'm not going to be able to get that in there very good. and I know that x is in there someplace, so I'm going to divide by this 1.875, and so if I take 270 divided by that, I get 144 for x. So that's another way that you can solve those, kind of bypassing the proportion type idea. Now we get into an inverse one, so let's see what those are like. So the inverse one, again, if y varies inversely as x, y equals 14 when x equals 3. So again, if we're trying to write this, it's going to be y equals k over x, like that. I could try to find that constant, but it doesn't really ask me to here. So again, the way to solve these is not with a proportion, but it's more of like an xy equals xy type equation. So first of all, we have y equals 14 when x equals 3. So there's 3 times 14 right there. Find x when y equals 30, like that. So basically we're going to divide both sides by 30, and that's going to be my x value. So 3 times 14, I believe, is 42, and 42 divided by 30 as a decimal then is going to be 1.4. So remember, if you have that inverse variation, you cannot use proportions. You have to do a little different strategy. All right, here's our last example. This one's kind of complicated when you first read through it, as you can see. It says, if y varies jointly as x and z and inversely as the square of w, that's a mouthful right there, then they give you several examples or several x's and y's. We're trying to find y when x equals 4, z equals 20, w equals 4. So anyway, let's try to write this out. So varies jointly, so I'm going to have my k value up here as x and z, but then inversely, that means whatever comes next is going to go in the denominator as the square of w. Right there it is. There's my little equation. So now I'm just going to try to put in some values to see if I can figure out what that k value is. So sure enough, y is 3. I don't know what k is. I know that x is 3 and z is 10 and w is 2, so that's going to go in the denominator like that. And you can follow through this a little bit, but I'm going to basically get that 3 equals 30k divided by 4, like that. And if I go ahead and solve this, I have to multiply 4 on each side, then divide by 30. I'm going to get this k value equaling 0.4 or 4/10. All right, so once I know that, then I can go back in the equation again, and then I just fill in what I know. I'm trying to figure out what y is. So now I know that my k value is 0.4, and it says when x is 4 and z is 20. You can tell I don't have my stylus pen here. I'm trying to do this with my finger here. And w squared will be 4. 4 squared is 16. So if I take 0.4 times 4 times 20 and divide it by 16, lo and behold, I'm going to get 2. So you probably learned about this a little bit in intermediate algebra or algebra, and you guys had it, so it shouldn't be too bad. And this, because it was kind of dry, I'd just like to leave you a funny picture here. There's a cat on an invisible bike. So enjoy that, and we'll see you guys in class. Bye now.